Hi guys, and thank you so very much for tuning into Chikila Fam Family. Thank you very much for those who've subscribed, those who've liked some of the videos that we are putting up, and you all know that we have been on this journey of self-discovery, and it is interesting how we are picking things up as we go along. Now, brothers and sisters, one of the things that I wanted to quickly address and discuss was this. Could it be that everything that Caucasians said about us to alienate black people from that which is divine, that which is good, from the turning of the black family upside down and inside out, could it be the truth about themselves? Because yes, we were told that black skin came as a result of a curse. This was the doctrine even of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from the inception of the church right up until 1978. So we're looking at 130 plus years. And also from general Christianity, and this was white discourse in general. However, when they said that the color of a black person's skin is a curse, then I often used to say growing up that the curse then will end with me. It was taught that Cain, as a result of killing his brother, was cursed with a black skin, and that curse was going to endure while time endures, and that this curse was then going to affect generations to come, and that the generations of Cain's children will not be able to receive any blessings from God. And then furthermore, we were taught that the descendant of Noah, Canaan, I think himself, the son of Ham, then was also cursed because of Ham's action of mocking his father when his father was naked, and that he would be a servant of servants. And obviously we all know about the white Jesus, the white God, the white angels, everything that is holy, everything that is righteous, everything that is noble became thus Caucasian because apparently God decreed it such. Well, so if we look at the scriptures, we see absolutely no evidence. I'm talking about the Bible. I haven't touched other scriptures yet. Absolutely no evidence. No evidence at all to suggest that the black skin is a curse. However, there are some hints to suggest that white skin was the curse, because whenever a man was cursed of God, he was cursed with leprosy. And if you look up what leprosy is, it is a pale face. So if we turn to Numbers chapter 12, we will see that Miriam and Aaron, after Moses had married the Ethiopian woman, remember now, the Ethiopian woman, Ethiop means of a burnt face, and Ethiopian is an African aboriginal, if you want to call it that. So Moses was then married to an African woman who thus became umlingani wake, and Miriam had an issue with this because he was not marrying a Hebrew woman. And then we learn that the Lord was angry, very angry. I'll pause the video and then I'll get the scripture real quick. Hold up a second. So the Lord was really peed off with Miriam's attitude towards Moses and speaking against Moses. Now let's listen to this. Verse 9. Okay. It says here, and the anger of the Lord, Numbers chapter 12, was kindled against them meaning Aaron and Miriam. And he departed. So the Lord left, and the cloud departed from the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. Remember, white as snow. This is her skin. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not this sin upon us, where we have done foolishly, wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead. Dead meaning pale, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. Close quote. Numbers chapter 12, look it up. So here we see Miriam being cursed with a white skin, being turned into a pale face as a result of a sin that she committed by speaking against a man who had married a black African woman. Somebody who was supposedly cursed. Moses himself was raised by a black African family. We know that shortly after he had left Egypt, after he had run away, when he had discovered who he truly was, I think, he left and he was mistaken for an Egyptian. Now, brothers and sisters, it is necessary for you and me to understand what the original word for Egypt is. The original word for Egypt is Kemet, and Kemet means land of the blacks. So Moses was mistaken as a native or an aboriginal of the land of the blacks. And it is impossible for you to make that deduction unless you were looking at a black man. Moses himself, when he was in the midst of the mount, when the Lord appeared to him for the first time, the Lord said to him to show him a sign. Put your hand in your breast, and he pulls it out, and the scripture says his hand turned leprous as snow, white. His hand became snow white. Then the Lord tells him again, take your hand, put it back into your bosom or chest. Pulls it out again, and it becomes like unto his other flesh, and his other flesh, which is other than white. Now, 1967, Elder Eldon Tenor of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles said the following words, that nowhere in the history of the Christian church has the Negro, meaning the black man, ever held the priesthood, and therefore the church has no intention of changing the policy on the priesthood. Close quote. I paraphrased what he was saying. But if you look at the scriptures, brothers and sisters, there is no evidence to suggest that there has ever been a Caucasian prophet. From Adam all the way through to John the Beloved, who was cast out into the Isles of Patmos. Let's look at it. If we look at Daniel chapter 7 verse 9, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to open it for us so that you don't think I'm fooling around. Daniel chapter 7 verse 9. Now it talks about the Ancient of Days. Now the Ancient of Days is known as the oldest man, right? The first man to ever be seated by God on this earth, right? And also, of course, his wife. So now let's look at the description that the scripture gives us here in verse 9. Daniel says, quote, I believe till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. Stop. There is no other race upon the face of this earth that has hair like the pure wool. We're not talking color, we're talking likeness, like the pure wool, except the black man. So the first prophet to ever be seated by God, to ever walk and talk with the Creator, and the first prophet to ever be wedded, not only for time and for all eternity, was in fact a black man, what the world would consider a Negro, and what the apartheid proponents would have considered a kafir. Brothers and sisters, now we even have science to back us up. We all know the story of Spencer Wells, who went on to find scientific Adam. He then looked at the Y chromosome mutation found in the DNA of men. He went all the way down the genetic line of divine and found that the first super ancestor of all humanity was a black man, exactly as Daniel has described it. This man had hair like lamb's wool, and the scriptures teach you and I, when within the mouth of one or two witnesses shall every word be established. Now we've got scripture and science saying the same thing. And then also we've got Dr. Keith Cheng in 2005, who came with a wonderful revelation. And in that revelation he said, quote, after having studied the genetics of human beings, He said, not only are white-skinned people or lighter-skinned people, Europeans and Asians like myself, referring to himself because he was an Asian, he said, not only are they evolved from black people, but they are a mutation of black people. Now, I looked up what some of the other words relating to mutation are, and that the operative word that I found was, or the crowning word, if you want to call it that I found was deviation. Deviant. Right. So what he was basically saying that this is a deviant from the original. So what am I trying to get at here? If the Ancient of Days Adam was black, then it means that his children were black. Enoch was a black man. Then it means that Noah was a black man. Then it means that Shem, Ham, and Japheth was a black man. And Abraham was the grandson of Noah, and therefore Abraham himself was a black man. Then it means that Isaac was a black man. Then it means that Jacob himself was a black man, whose name was turned into Israel, who had 12 sons who were married to Canaanite women who were black women. Then, brothers and sisters, it is essential for us to note that even I've mentioned Moses. Yes, I've already mentioned Moses. Even Jesus himself, who was described as having feet like a burnt metallic object and who has hair like that of a lamb's wool. Again, only a Caucasian could have that kind of appearance. So if Jacob, whose name was Israel, was black, then it means that the house of Israel originally was a black nation, with a lot of African blood in there, by the way. Now, if you think about it carefully, you will find that one of the sons, the one who was sold particularly into Egypt, when he saw Asenath, he saw a wife. And Asenath was a black African woman. So ubone ndoni umlingani wakhe xa sisitsho ke ngesiXhosa. Moses himself, when he saw an Ethiopian woman, ubone ndoni ubone umlingani wakhe, his equal xa sisitsho ke ngesiXhosa. So brothers and sisters, if the 12 patriarchs were black, the house of Israel was black, it means that Jesus himself, who's from the loins of Judah, biologically, thus by that virtue he became a Jew. He was a black man himself. It means that the Israelites that he chose to serve with him, the 12 apostles of the Lamb, were indeed black men. And there's evidence to suggest, particularly with Paul, who was given a vision of the ministry of Jesus, or Yahusha. Now, Paul was also mistaken for an Egyptian. Read in the book of Acts. You will find that he was mistaken for an Egyptian, a native of the land of Kemet, which is essentially the land of the blacks. So I'm going to wrap it up like this. Maybe in the Christian church, never has it been that the Negro, that the black man and the black woman has ever held any position of authority. But from what I can tell in here, and the evidences that I have put, that the only time a white skin came was as a result of a curse. I'm not saying white people are cursed. I'm saying what the Bible is saying is that when that genetic mutation that altered the pigmentation of the skin in order to produce a pale face, that came as a result of a sin. This is now according to the Bible. This is not my words. And if you read these scriptures, you will also have no other option but to come to the same deduction. Now, we're going to talk more about this at a later stage, but there's something else I need to do now. But thank you so much for tuning in. And I want to provoke your thoughts with this when I close. That could it be that every lie that they said about us is in fact the truth about them? Think on that.